Hello everybody, welcome back to my studio. It's lovely to be here again with you all. I haven't been here for quite a while, obviously. Thank you for your patience. I hope you've had a nice fortnight off as well as I have. I don't know what you've been doing, but I hope it's been nice. We've had lovely summer weather here. It's been absolutely brilliant. I've done all the things I wanted to do. Well, some of the things I wanted to do. You know, you always have hopes that you'll do lots more. But I did a lot of clutter clearing. That was my main thing. I wanted to have space and time to get in down and dirty with some of my cupboards and some of my things in the loft in here, things that I've been hoarding and hanging on to. And I suddenly got this big urge just to go and get stuff out. So I've been pulling stuff down from upstairs, as I say, in my loft space. I've been getting rid of old stuff that's just been sitting there. I've been through all my old paperwork. I've been clearing out cupboards. We've got some building work coming up in October, hopefully, in the house. And I know I needed to clear space for that. So it's been brilliant. I have done nothing creative. I like to have a complete space and gap in the summertime, so that I'm not constantly feeling I've got to keep creating. I keep drawing, I keep doing my daily walk, I keep doing, you know, all my lovely fun activities. And I was thinking yesterday, I said to my husband that it's quite interesting, having not been away, I haven't had to pack to go away, I haven't had to unpack to come home, I haven't had that dip you get when you've had a lovely holiday and you've had a super time away and you come back and it's great for about half an hour and then your eyes start seeing all the jobs that you need to do. I haven't actually had that dip, so I feel like I've had this really pleasant, just sort of smooth existence. I've made sure I've sat out in the garden. I bought myself a sun lounger when the weather was really hot earlier in the year, so I've done lots of relaxing as well. And it's just been lovely to feel I had the space to actually tackle these jobs that needed doing, that have sort of been lurking in the background. And I have been to the charity shop so many times, and I know there's more to do, but for now that's enough. And now I'm back in here. I don't know what I'm doing next. I've got some things and irons in the fire, as they say, but as regards what I'm going to show you today, I thought I would show you the end part of my sunset. I've actually finished it and it's done, and I've given it to my friend and she was really pleased with it. So I thought I'd just finish off the last two videos by showing you the end of that and what it turned out like. And then, who knows, I will just be inspired. I thought, the way to start when you don't know what to do is just to start. So that's what I'm going to do. So thank you so much, as I say, for being here. Don't forget to subscribe. If you hit the notification bell, then say if I do have a little gap in my videos, you'll get a notification of when the next video comes up. And please, you know, share it with your friends. Let people know that I'm here, because I feel like we're a lovely little community here. I love my little comments from you. I love answering questions. It's great to have you here. So without further ado, I will show you my finished result of my sunset and we'll take it from there and see what happens. Okay, so this is my finished piece. I'm really chuffed with it, I have to say. It was quite a job to get it all finished how I wanted it to be, because I'm working on quite a small scale here. This is about, I think, 7 by about 4.5 inches. So it's really quite tight and small, and I really wanted it to reflect the photograph that my friend had given me. I did a little drawing. If I kind of put this alongside, maybe you can see. I did a little drawing from her photograph, so I had a rough idea of what it was going to look like. But it was things like getting the contrast between the sunset sky and the water, where it's kind of more light and reflective, but with shadows on it. So these buildings are actually done with velvet, which I bond-webbed onto the background. And when I actually ironed them down, they went a little bit flatter, but they still have a nice quality to them. They're not, I didn't want black. I thought black would just be too dark. So everything's got a kind of purple tinge to it down here in the water. But it also needed to reflect the sunset coming down. And doing the sun was quite tricky. This is actually the sunset rather than, it looks like the moon, I know, a little bit. But because of the quality of the light in the photograph of the sun, I really didn't think yellow would be appropriate. So I was trying to get the really light quality of that. This is what it looks like without the mount. So you can see I made it to this size, and it's obviously got rough edges and bits that are missing down the side. So it doesn't, the whole design doesn't go right to the edges. But it goes to the edges sufficiently that when you put the mount on, that really crisps it up and brings it into focus, which is nice. I did, as I showed you in my last videos, I showed you the samples that I made to get this on the go, get this project on the go. It's one that I've been putting off because really I knew it was going to be a challenge to do. I don't normally work from photographs, and commissions are always a little bit more sort of hairy scary because you're trying to get it right for the person that you're making it for. So I've done these basic samples, and then also I did a little bit of sampling to try and get, if I show you this with the actual piece there, I was trying to get what the buildings would look like and how to do the shadows in the water and how to do the water markings and what sort of colours I could use and how to do the sunset and things like that. So that was quite helpful to do as well. Only tiny, doesn't need to be big, but it just helps me process how things are going, how I think things are going to look, and then that gives me the confidence just to actually stitch and go for it. Because there comes a point when with something like this you've just got to go for it. You've just got to start the thing and obviously finish it. Okay, so I've got absolutely no idea about what I'm going to be doing next. None whatsoever. I think it's probably time to get back to some basics and see where that takes me. Sometimes when you've just got this total blank canvas and you really don't know what to do, it's good just to go back to the fundamentals. So I was thinking about what I used to do to play around with sort of patterns and stitching is. This is quite a neat way of just doing drawings of things, where you're just looking at the textures. So you would take an object, say like a shell, or I don't know, something like this maybe. You'd perhaps take something like that, and you just look at it, and you look at the lines in the shell, on the shell, and you look at the patterns on the shell, and you can just make a quick drawing. One of the things I have is oh, sorry, I'm just clattering here. I have a little square, and what you can do is just take your pencil and you just make marks, and it can be with reference to something like a shell or something else, a stone, or something else that you've got that's got texture and pattern to. It could be a pattern outside, it could be something like a drain cover pattern, or the pattern on, you know, the wall where the cement render is making interesting patterns. It could be anything. There's patterns everywhere. So this is quite a nice way of just getting your pencil moving, getting you moving, and just sort of starting off a process of any kind. It doesn't really matter how you start, I don't think, as long as you get started. And as I say, at the moment, I've kind of got no idea at all really what I'm going to be doing. So I'm just, as I say, I've just got all of these. I've got these funny old sketchbooks. They're a real mixture of odds and sods, mark making. I don't know, some of them are from the Dark Ages, many years ago. Some of them are old, some of them are very old. And but you see, something like this is really quite useful to have. This is me been practicing. Again, I'll have drawn myself a little square on some calico, and I've just taken my sewing machine and let it do some scribbling, let it do some lines. And it may be with reference to my pencil marks, or again it might just be something out of my head, but you can see you can start to make some nice patterns, and then these are the sort of things you can take into your design work, into your surface patterns when you're free machining and you're looking for a pattern to put in to fill up a space, or to create a sense of something like, I don't know, grasses growing outside, or hedge lines or something like that. It's quite useful to have something like this as a reference. So this is, I mean, this is just squiggling. Some of it's a little bit more deliberate and patterny. This one I did little circles. Some of them are open and some of them are filled in. This is where I've done like a circle, and then I've segmented it up just again to practice my filling stitches, basically. So there's that one. And then this one over here is a book of magic. This is a magic book, really. This is where I've kept all my samples that I've done when I've been planning workshops or planning work. I keep little samples. So you can see this was my fairy cake. This is my fairy cake era. I did a lot of fairy cakes, and I do workshops doing beach huts and things like that. So I've got some poppies there, which are quite nice. And literally I just take some fabrics and I just play around to create. So this is a bit like the first book I showed you. This is just squiggling and playing. It's got some different textured fabrics. It's got some, this is this is scrim or muslin. This is something soft like my curtain interlining, cotton curtain interlining, a bit of calico. And it's interesting, once you start to put them into a book like this, they become a resource for you. And I've even I've made myself a little calico covered piece of paper, and then I've handwritten on what the samples represent. Well, one of the things I was going to talk about was how doing little quick drawings can help part of this process. So this was something I was doing, this is 2015, that shows how old this is, but this is something, a technique to come back to. And I kind of invented this technique where I did a really, really quick drawing of something, very fast, like I allowed myself 5 minutes, 10 minutes maximum, and then I would go and grab a box of fabric and just pull some fabrics out and invent a way to take that drawing into the fabric. And I don't allow myself to work on it for very long. It's a very quick response to something, and I find that takes you away from the thinking, overthinking. If you just literally grab a handful of fabrics, grab some yarns, play around with them, stick them down, and then stitch into them, and it's amazing what can come out. This was just some little drawings of some balls of string. Unfortunately, I haven't actually stuck the picture in from this one. It's in a book somewhere, in my sketchbook somewhere. So this was just looking at some balls of yarn, I think, or string, and just responding to that. I grabbed some different coloured fabrics, did a couple of different coloured threads, and I just was looking at the patterns that you get on the balls of yarn. In fact, I've probably got the balls of yarn sitting over there on my shelf. I don't throw anything away, you know. This was looking at hydrangeas. I did a quick drawing of some hydrangeas, just really fast. And this is lovely because this is actually stitched from the underneath using a really thick thread. I put the really thick thread into my bottom bobbin, and because I'm stitching from the wrong side, you can't quite see where you're going. And it was doing, again, just looking at the lines, looking at the patterns. And you can see, you can start to just get something exciting going on. It moves, instead of overthinking it, as I say, and over planning it and saying, well, this is absolutely what I'm going to do, you let the fabrics and the process take you somewhere interesting and exciting. Okay. So again, this was a little quick drawing of seashells. This is what I've photocopied these out of my sketchbook because I couldn't bear to tear my sketchbook up, and because I wasn't sketching into this directly. So again, a little quick drawing, and then I've taken some, I think this is some lace on some calico, and some little bits of grey fabrics, a bit of lacy bits, and I've just done a very quick, I hope you can see that, a very quick set, a couple of shells. That one, again, I haven't got the drawing for this. As I say, I can't find my sketchbook, it's disappeared somewhere. I don't quite know where it's gone. This was a couple of just stones, and again, just taken some fabric, cut these grey bits out according to the patterns on the stone, and then just stitched it really quickly. And it's just, I don't know, it's just exploring. It's not saying anything's fixed or anything's set, and it's not necessarily going to become something. You know, nothing has to be an end product in what I do, I don't think. That was literally just taking some snippets that I must have had left over from something, and I've just whacked them down onto a piece of really bright pink couple of fabrics, and a bit of zigzag and a bit of straight stitch. So nothing fancy in the way of stitching, but just creating some sort of texture. And that could become, you know, you could take your little square and you could be looking at that and saying, well, actually, oh, you know, I really like the way I did that, and I like that bit there, and I like this little bit of whatever this is that's coming off. I think that might be a bit of just the edge of the fabric has got frayed. You know, all of these things can then feed into your creative process going forward. I think there was a couple of other ones I was going to show you. This was just, again, I think I know I've got a little beautiful blue bowl somewhere that a friend of mine made. It's really lovely, and it's quite a textured bowl, and I just had some shells in it, and I was just drawing the shells very quickly. Again, sorry, I haven't got the sketch as well, but it was a quick stitching process, how to make the shells look like shells. Says here, quick sketch and a quick stitch exercise. Oh, and that was the 3rd of August 2017. There you go, I've actually dated it. Well, it says new mini sketchbook, so maybe I need to find that. And then again, some stones and pebbles. which I have put onto a background of lace, and I've done lots of stitching onto the lace really quickly, and then 3 little bits of fabric, and then I've looked at the patterns on the stones and done some quick stitching onto that. I think I've got another one here actually. This one's half started. Now I don't think I did drawings for this one necessarily, but interestingly enough I can see it says Waddingham Calico stitched like rose bay willow herb seed heads, and it's very interesting because right now outside my window I've got some rose bay willow herb seed heads, and I was looking at, I don't know if you know what they look like, but they have these lovely sort of curvy seed pods, and they just kind of go everywhere across the surface, and they get all curly-whirly. So again, it's about creating texture. It's very subtle, so I don't know if you can see that terribly well, but you can see that the surface has got a lot of texture going on, and I used again some very thick threads and some very thin threads mixture there. That was a quick seed head stitching bit where again I think I'll have drawn those. This one this is grey lace embellished on both sides. You see, this is where it's really helpful to actually write down your process, because you could come to this later on and go, oh, how could I recreate something like that? Not necessarily in those colours, but something of that ilk, which might take you, you know, into what you want to produce. This one is calico layered over some, I've got this lovely kind of open woven fabric, which was a net curtain, believe it or not, from a charity shop, and I bought it and it's been the most wonderful fabric. I've used it for all sorts of things. And then I've put some wool underneath and stitched and embellished, and you know, I was just stitching in lines, so nothing extravagant, nothing terribly exciting, but just playing and practicing and seeing what comes. This one I use, it says calico over wadding with some stitch and tear, which is what I use as my stabilizer, and I pre-printed it with some brown acrylic. I don't know what I did, that it just says brown acrylic, and then I've just overstitched it again. I think it's looking at sort of very quick textures, possibly hedgerows or grasses or something. You know, at this time of year there's a lot of brown in the hedgerows here in the UK. So I'm not quite sure. What I think I'm going to do now is I'm going to get myself a little box of fabrics out. I'm going to do a really quick sketch, and then I'm going to see what comes from that. And it's just getting me going, because as I say, I've no idea quite what I'm doing or what direction I'm going in at the moment.